We are the Gujarat Technological University. Since its inception over a decade ago, GTU has been empowering young and curating minds to realize their true potential. Over 4 lakh inspired students are enrolled with one of the premier academic universities in India. With more than 450 affiliated colleges in its fold operating across 5 zones of the state, GTU, the International Innovative University, your place to move forward.
Starting recording first and then share my PPT now. Okay. Okay, now you can see my PPT on there. Title is chapter 9, right? Everybody is seeing my PPT right now on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it blur or clearly visible?
Clearly visible.
Clearly visible.
Okay. If anybody facing problem because of poor internet connection, right, you can see the PPT that I have already mailed you, right?
Sir,
Okay. બોલો.
સર પાછલી લેક્ચરની રેકોર્ડિંગ્સ તો મેલ કર દેજો.
Okay, mail કર દઈશ, ચાલો.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. This chapter include 3 topics: introduction of services, how you can work with the background threads, and using alarm services, right? So let's start with the services first. Okay, so as you all know, right, we have started our journey in unit number 1 by discussing the component of Android application. Till now we have learned most of these. Let's repeat it. So first one, that the Android activity, then intent, then broadcast receiver, then content provider, then UI widgets. Now the last one that we have on your screen, that is what the services. So in that the question of 7 marks, right, in unit 1, I already asked this question in my unit test, right, that explain the Android application component, where we are describing services as an invisible employee of Android application, right? So in services, we does not have any graphic user interface as you compare with the activity always have their UI, but in the case of services it is invisible. Why? Because services always execute in background. So what task we can do with the services? So we can create internet lookups, that means to download XML and JSON files, right? Processing data. If large data are there and we want to process it in background with the help of services, we can do that thing. If we wish to update content providers, right, we can do this thing. If we want to fire some pending intents or the actual intents, we can do this thing. Or in a background processing, if we wish to notify our users, we can trigger the notification. In short, we can design our services for the long-lived task, right? They have the amount of work, that is the time-consuming operations that we required parallelly when we are working on UI. So in a background, some processing is going on, and on UI, user is interacting with our UI, right? So for all this case, we can utilize this thing, right? So services are start or stop or control with the other application component we have, right? Like that include the activity, broadcast receiver. Hello. કોઈનો અવાજ આવે છે ભાઈ, ઓડિયો બંધ કરો. કોઈ નો ઓડિયો ચાલુ છે, પ્લીઝ બંધ કરજો. Sorry for interrupt, right? I have a call. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's continue with the further, right? So services that can be started or stopped, or you can control it with the other application component, right? Other component means activity or the broadcast receiver or other services. So with the help of activity, you can start services or the stop services, or with the help of broadcast receiver, right? Like you receive some broadcast, like somebody open on the internet connection, or the stop it, or somebody activate the GPS connection, right? And you want to trigger it out your services, then it is possible, right? So with the help of some other application component, you can start your services or stop your services. So the only reason that services prematurely stop when additional requirement of the component to at operating system side, right? Some memory hungry component need to be reduced. At that time, your Android operating system will trim this kind of services or forcefully stop these services. Otherwise, services have the higher priority that will always run in background. Now let's see the service life cycle. As we already know, right, wherever the word life cycle comes, that becomes the important question. Till now we have already learned three type of life cycle: activity life cycle, application life cycle, fragment life cycle, and now the fourth one that you are going to learn, that is the service life cycle. So again, it becomes the most important question according to your GTU examination. Now if you see the left side, you will find a one diagram. There are two flow charts are there. Okay, so just see at bottom, I have just specified with test, right? This is the unbound services and bound services. So we can say that we have two type of services available in Android. One is the unbound services and another is the bound services. Now what is the difference between these two things? Let's clarify this thing, then further we'll see the life cycle of services. So in unbound services, what happened, user will explicitly start and stop that services, right? By using activity, or you can say the broadcast receiver, or the any other component, right? Like said that other services are there, so explicitly you are starting services. So you have one method, start services, and to stop it, a stop services is there. So whenever you utilize start services command, it will execute on start command, right? So it become the unbound services. But whenever you wish to bind your services to some application component or on some feature, right, then it become the bind services. So at that time you need to call this kind of services using bind services. So here what happened, right, where you can utilize the bind services. So in a older age mobile, you many time feel that when you add audio jack, it will automatically start the media player, right? Or when you add the audio jack, it will start the radio, or whatever the task you have specified, that will automatically start. Another example, you if you take of the bind services, whenever you start the mobile data, the WhatsApp and Facebook background services are start, and you will get the notification that some message is received by that particular background services. So it is bind to the mobile data or the internet connection. When connectivity is changed, that services is automatically started, right? So are you getting the difference of these two things, a bind services and unbound services? Is it clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
જાગો છો ને બધાય?
Yes, sir.
તો વાંધો નહીં. Okay, now let's see the methods of it. If you see the diagram, right, that the life cycle that contain the some common method, like say that start services to start the unbound services. In the case of bind services, bind service method is there. Then always on create will call either it is unbound or the bound services, right? In the case of unbound services, on start command, right, that is called. Before the on start command is introduced, there is a one method that is known as on start, but that is depreciated. Now on start command is there, then service goes into the running state, and after that a one common method is there on destroy, and then service will shut down. But in the case of bind services, on bind is called, then services goes into the running state, and then on unbind is called, then services goes into the destroy state. So according to the type of services, a number of method is called. Now if examiner wants to make your paper difficult, then they will add keyword that explain the life cycle of unbound services. તો એમાં પછી on bind અને on unbind છે એ ના, right? And if examiner asks that explain the life cycle of bound services, then you should omit on start command. But if examiner says explain the service life cycle, then you have to explain all, right? Okay, now let's learn that what is the role of each method. I have already described it in my upcoming slide, that what is the role of each method, but right now I am explaining on this particular slide, right, because we have all methods in one slide. And if you remember this slide, you are able to write 7 marks question. Okay, now let's start how you can create your service. So it's simple, right? It's like all component, what we are doing, we are creating our own class that is extended from its superclass. If you wish to create the activity, we are extending it from the activity class. If you need to create a content provider, we are extending it from the content provider. Similarly, right now we are interested to create services, so we are extending our class, say example services that extend the services. Okay, first 3 properties, right, that created at class level. One is the start mode, how that services is going to be a restart, that behavior is defined over there. Then iBinder, it is the interface for the client to bind it, right? iBinder is basically used that how you are binding your services to some another event, or that how it is going to be triggered. Like say that when you attach the audio jack and your media player is automatically started, or when you start the internet connection and your application services is automatically started. Another thing, that's a boolean parameter that we are creating that indicate whether you want to rebind or not. So true and false that you can specify, right? But right now we are just discussing the skeleton, so we will focus on the number of methods we have. In any case, whether the services is unbound or bound, on create will always call. So all the initialization that is required, right, when the services is being created, you need to write all these things, like say that you require the database connection and all of those things, that you need to initialize all properties right there. Then in the case of unbound services, on start command will call, right? So that have the 3 parameter. One is the intent, with the help of the services is started. Then the flags are there, that how you can restart it, or that thing. And if this services is called repeatedly many times, in the special case of the unbound services, right, you can recall it, right? So at that time the start id is there, so you can uniquely identify that which services need to be restarted, right? And this command is called when you utilize start service method to start the service. Always remember, on start command will call when you are working with the unbound services. Then when you are working with the bind services or the bounded services, then on bind method will call that have only one parameter, that's the intent itself. And to invoke the bound services, you need to always utilize the bind service method, right? Here in a blue portion at left side, we have a diagram where you can see that which method you need to utilize to invoke which type of services. Okay, once you bound this thing and your task is completed, then you need to call one more method, right? Or when your task is completed, unbound method will call, right? So unbind services, that is the method. With the help of it, you can unbound this thing from the targeted event where you have binded your services. Then rebind, right? If you feel that okay, you again want to bind it with your connections, then how you can do? So you need to call the rebind. But always remember, right, when you are rebinding, your services is already unbinded, so you are rebinding it. In application lifecycle, we are restarting our activity, right? Where what happened, your activity is already stopped, so we are restarting it. Any doubt? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. And the final method, right, that is the on destroy, right, where your services is going to be destroyed, right? So before it goes in a destroyed, you can write your task like releasing the connection and all other tasks to clear the memory that you can do in on destroy state. So these are the few methods, right, that will call during the life cycle event. But always remember, right, this life cycle is different than the fragment or activity or application life cycle, because according to the type of services, whether you are selecting the unbound services or the bound services, it will call that particular methods. Okay, now let's say that how you can create your services. So here you just see that we are utilizing on bind method, of course. So we are creating the bound services right there. Okay, so just see, we have one class that is extended service class. So on create method is there and the binder method is there. Again, this is the example, so only skeleton is given. In your G2 syllabus list, there is one. Hello, what happened? Okay, there is one example to create the alarm services, right? So I have already hosted that example on my blog. You can find the link from there and you can test this thing, that how we can write this the alarm services using background services. Okay, so this is the example that how you can create the bind services. Now let's move forward. As we know, right, the service is the application component, and each component need to be registered in Android application manifest file. So service need to be registered. So just see that in an application manifest, we need to write this tag. If you have created this service by right clicking on application package and just select the services, then what happened, this statement is automatically written in your Android manifest file. But in the case you are creating it manually, you need to write this statement manually within application tag, right? So here just see that we write one attribute, enable is equal to true. That means your service is enabled. An Android name where a fully qualified name of that service class need to be specified. Just see right here, we have utilized dot and my services. So what happened, we are registering the my services. One more thing, right, that if you want to put the permission that only your application can start or stop your services, then you can add the permission tag, and where you need to specify the unique string over there, right? And to specify the unique string, we always believe that we need to pass our package name. So just see that com.professional Android application development dot my service permission that we have specified. my service permission, that's a unique string that we have added with our package. So that is fine, right? So how you can register your service component in your Android. Now another thing, that how you can execute these services and controlling its restart behavior, that how it is going to be restarted if in case your application is stopped. Okay, so right here we are taking the example of on start command, right? So which type of services we are talking about? It's a unbound services, right? So here just see that we have put a code snippet of on start command that have three parameters: intent, integer flag, and integer start id, where we are calling a one user defined method, that is the start background task, where we pass intent as argument and start id. So in a start background task, we are doing the starting of some background task, that may be the internet lookup, or we are doing the processing of data, or notifying user with the notification manager, or we are starting the alarm, or anything else. But the second parameter is important. Second line, that is the return statement, is important, where we are specifying that how it should restart. Okay, so we are returning services dot start sticky, right? So what is the meaning of this thing, we will see in next slide. Three types of constants are there that we can utilize, that will define the behavior, that how your services is going to be restarted. But right here I want to mention this thing: before Android 2.0, or you can say the API level 5, that on start command is actually on start event. But after that API level 5, on start is depreciated and Android is introduced on start command. So it may ask in you the filling blanks, right? So you should prepare this line. Okay, so let's see the restart mode. What restart mode is actually defined, right? So if in any case your services is stop, so how this need to be restarted, that can be specified using these three constant. It is known as restart mode. So first one is start sticky. Just see that in this slide we are just doing start sticky, that we are utilizing. So in start sticky, what happened, this mode is typically used for the services that handle their own state. That means services store its state itself. So it have the idea that where it is started or explicitly stopped. That can be utilized using the start services and stop services. So it might possible that in a one ongoing background task, you can start it multiple times and stop it. Just take the one example, like say that you are listening music, right? At the same time you got the call. So what happened, your service is explicitly stopped. That means playing song, it goes into this pause state. You receive the call, just answer it, and when you disconnect it, your service will automatically restart it, right? So they utilize start sticky, right? Another one, that is the start non-sticky. So here what happened, this mode is ideal for the specific request, particularly when you are processing search updates or the network pooling. When you are updating your phone with the help of system updates, or you are downloading something or a large file from the network pooling, at that time you can utilize this one. So how it is different from the previous one, that is start sticky. So here what happened, the rather than the restarting service during some specific period of resources, it often more careful, right? That when service is stopped or the next reschedule interval. So it will restart it after few seconds. It will not continuously check that, okay, it should be restarted, it should be restarted. It will wait for 5 minutes or the 10 seconds, then it will automatically try to restart it. But in the previous case, what happened, it have their previous state, so it will be restarted explicitly. Either user will do this thing, or if the broadcast receiver is there, that event will trigger, then it will that task will automatically restart. Now the third one, that is start redeliver intent. So this is again a combination of these two things, previously sticky and non-sticky. So here what happened, right? We need to pass intent, right? And according to that intent data, it will start it, right? So if service is terminated at runtime, it restarted only when there is some pending calls or the pending task is there. If task is already completed, it will not restart it, right? So in case later you can utilize the start command that will pass the initial intent. According to that intent data, it will read the status that where that service is actually stopped, and you need to complete the remaining task properly. That will get all this kind of information from the redelivered intent. So it's a combination of sticky and non-sticky. So according to your need, you can specify the restarting behavior of your services, whether it is the binding services or the unbound services that you can utilize. Okay, so these are the restart mode. In one time, too much question is asked about restart mode. So do you have any difficulty within this sticky, non-sticky, not sticky, and the redeliver intent? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's go into the next page. So how you can start services? So services can be start explicitly and implicitly. On your screen, right, two user defined functions are there: explicit start and implicit start. Here we are starting our music service, or you can say the my services class. So that can be started explicitly or implicitly, and to do so we can utilize one method, that is the system defined start services. Okay, so to start the explicit services, we will utilize the explicit intent. Just see right here, we are creating intent equal to new intent, a current context is passed, and the class name my services dot class, and we are starting our services, not starting the activity, but a method name is start service, and we have specified the intent. So it will explicitly start your services. Sure. Hello.
Yes, sir.
ઓકે, એક પ્રોમ્પ્ટ મારા સ્ક્રીન ઉપર આવેલો છે કે 10 મિનિટની અંદર આ મીટિંગ છે ટર્મિનેટ થઈ જશે.
પૂરી થઈ જશે.
હા, તો હું તમને છે ને એક પાછી લિંક ફોરવર્ડ કરીશ, ત્યારે તમે કનેક્ટ છે પાછા થાજો, બરાબર? અત્યારે 10 મિનિટ આપણે કન્ટિન્યુ રાખીએ છીએ, પછી પાછી લિંક હું તમને ફોરવર્ડ કરીશ.
Okay.
Okay, so in a implicit start, what happened, we will specify that what we want to do. So just see that my music services dot play album, and we are specifying that the album name and the artist name that we need to start. So it will start services depending on the whatever the music player is available on your Android platform, right? So how you can start your services explicitly and implicitly, that we are specifying right here. Now how you can stop it, right? So here, to stop explicitly and implicitly, again we need to specify our intent. Just see stop services, and we are specifying our explicit intent, anonymous reference of this thing that we have passed, that current context and my service class. And another thing, to stop it implicitly, implicit intent that we are passing right here. So just see my music services dot play album, what we have created previously, right? In the case of intent, that we are utilizing right here to stop it, right? So whatever the instance of intent you have started, that need to be stopped, whether it is created explicitly or implicitly, that we need to mention. Is it clear? Please confirm. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, disconnect નથી ગયા ને એટલે મને ખ્યાલ આવે.
No, sir.
Okay, now the next thing, the self-terminating services, right? Here what happens, services have always the higher priority. So it is always suggested, right, if your task is completed, you need to terminate your services. So with the help of stop self, you can stop your services. Here you have two choices. You can utilize stop self without any parameter, so it will forcefully stop all instance of services, or you can pass the start id, so it will ensure that it has been completed for each instance of start services and stop only the start id that you have provided, right? So with the help of stop self, you can stop these self services. That means within your services you are stopping itself. So without parameter and by passing the parameter, that two things you have utilized. If you are not passing any parameter, then what happen, it will stop the all instance. And if you are passing the parameter, that is the start id, it will wait until it will complete its task. Now binding services to the activity. Now we are starting with the bind services, that how you can bind your services to certain connection. Okay, so as I already given the example that how you can bind your services to the another component. So here you just see the last two line, we are preparing one intent, that is the bind intent equal to new intent, where we are passing the current context, that is the my activity dot this, and my music service dot class, that is the service we want to connect. Now the method bind services have three parameters. First one, the bind intent that we have created here on this slide. Then m connection, you can see this thing in blue portion, we will create that connection after two slides. Okay, and the third thing, context dot bind auto create, that means if services is not created, we need to explicitly create it. So by using this flag, you are informing to your Android that bind auto create these services. Okay, now just see this slide. This code need to be written in service class. Just see the previous skeleton that we have utilized right here. Okay, in this service class we have created this on bind method, right, and on create method, right? So this lifecycle method we are defining in this example, because right there I want to explain you the class binder. Now just see, we are overriding on bind. So on bind always return I binder class, right? So just see that we are returning the binder object of binder over there. So where it comes, so just see that we have created a one object of I binder at the end of this example, private final I binder, binder equal to new my binder. Now what is my binder? So it is extended from the binder class. So binder class is basically used to bind your services to the targeted component. So just see that within that we are writing one method that's return type is my music services. So in short, right, that my binders get services will return the instance of our music services. So just see that we are returning it right here, my music services dot this. So what happened, binder object have the reference of our services, right? So it will bind to the targeted component. Now one question is raised, sir, we have not mentioned that where we are going to bind this thing right now, because that task is done when you are starting the activity. Like say that when you receive some broadcast, when internet connection is on or off, at that time you need to start or stop these services. So your routine need to be written over there, right? but right here we are just specifying the skeleton of the services, that how it will retrieve the reference of your services. So we are defining in on by, right? So that how we can utilize the binder class within on by or in a bound services. Now let's specify that how we can create the connection. As the previous slide, right, I have mentioned that this M connection that we are going to define in upcoming slide. So right now we are defining this thing, that the connection object. So just see that we are creating the connection object with the help of new service connection, right? So private service connection, M connection equal to new service connection. Basically we are utilizing this thing to handle the connection between services and activity, and we are going to update the my music service reference. So that service reference object need to be updated within that. So you can just see that two bold text, or you can say that two methods is there: on service connected and on service disconnected. So when services is connected, we want to update the service reference, and when it is disconnected, we need to specify it null. So accidentally our service will not access that service reference. So now just see right here, two parameters are there: component name, that's a class name, to where you want to bind it, and the binder services, that with the help of that service class you want to bind it. So what we are doing here, just see this service object, right, that we are casting it into our service class. So just see my music services dot my binder that we have created right here previously. Just see in a my music class we have created this thing, my binder. So that we are referring right here, my music services dot my binder. So we are casting this service object into that, and then we utilize the get service. So it will return the service reference that we are utilizing right here. So it will initialize the my connection, and that is going to be set. ઓકે, હવે એક જ મિનિટ બાકી છે, એટલે હું તમને નવા કનેક્શન ની લિંક હમણાં મોકલું છું, રાઈટ? પછી પાછા આપણે કનેક્ટ થાય. ઓકે, પ્લીઝ કન્ફર્મ.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.